Good evening, folks. Apologies for getting the live stream started a little bit late here. Let me just get this up and posted on social media, and then we will get going here. Come with questions. You can even start typing those questions in the chat now if you want to. I'll post this, and we'll be starting here in just a moment. All right, almost done here, folks. Just got to get this posted to the Facebook group, and we will get going with our live update about extreme flooding going on across western Washington and, to an extent, eastern Washington as well. All right. Good evening, everybody. We are posted on social media. We are ready to go. All right. So we've got quite a situation going on across western Washington and also across parts of eastern Washington as well as we go into this evening. And taking a look at the forecast, we're at the map here from the National Weather Service, really does kind of tell you what you need to know. I mean, there are flood warnings literally everywhere. I mean, we have just the entire region covered in flood warnings. So I'm scrolling through Twitter over here on the other side, so we can I can pull up some tweets here in case we want to take a look at some of the live impacts that are going on here across the region. So let's start here with the live satellite. So this is what we're looking at, the picture right now. You can see the atmospheric river. You can see it moving kind of a little bit north right now, but it's going to sag back south, and that's going to kind of make things worse. So, excuse me. You can see that just streaming into Puget Sound in western Washington right here. Looking a little bit closer on the radar imagery, you can see, even though it's not raining very much in the lowlands, notice how this orographic lift, which is, again, when that atmospheric river hits the mountains, it kind of wrings out the water like a sponge as it slams into the mountains. Notice how it just doesn't stop raining. I mean, it has just been raining continuously across the Cascades. You can see the North Cascades as well. That's going to be important as we go through the stream here. We're going to take a look at some of the major flooding impacts going on. So please come with questions. Throw those questions in the chat about the flooding. Really, anywhere you want to talk about, we will look at the flooding. For any river, any creek even, we will take a look at that flooding. So please throw your questions in the chat. Let me check in the chat here. Unofficial Washington State Wildfire Aware, welcome to the chat, my friend. CC, thank you very much for your generosity for the super chat there. Appreciate you being here. I live near Issaquah Creek. It's so loud. Yeah, let's just dive right in. So let me get the observations back up here on the river forecast page. All right, so CC mentioned Issaquah Creek there. So this is what we'll do. If you guys have something to say about one of the rivers, we'll just throw up the graphic here and we'll take a look at it. So here is Issaquah Creek. This is what we're looking at right now. It is in minor flood stage, but look at how quickly it's rising there. So you're at 22,150 cubic feet per second. Your crest is expected to be in major flood stage tomorrow morning. So let's take a look at the full page there for Issaquah Creek. This was actually very recent. This was not shown as flooding even yesterday. So the fact that it is showing as a flood today is pretty significant. Also a note that when we are looking at these websites, they may take a little bit longer to load because, as you would expect, there's a lot of traffic on these sites. So starting here with Issaquah Creek, we are at 2,100 right now. That means it'll flood most low-lying areas in the valley. Swift waters will flood residential and business areas and roads, including Newport Way. But getting up to that crest, you're going to be cresting at around 2,800 cubic feet per second This is serious stuff here for Issaquah. Issaquah Creek will cause severe near-record flooding in the Issaquah Valley. Deep and swift floodwaters will inundate residential and business areas and numerous roads. Flooding will occur along the river, including headwaters, tributaries, and other streams within and near the Issaquah Creek Basin. So this is pretty significant for the Issaquah Creek. So if you're in Issaquah there, you got to watch out. I mean, this creek, look at the gauge location here. I mean, that's like, for those of you that know Issaquah, the Costco is right there. This goes right through town. You can see the outline of the creek there, literally right through town. So there's going to be some big problems there in Issaquah. A.R. Floyd asks, the Green River in Auburn. I was there yesterday. I don't know if you guys saw that video there on my channel, the Green River in Auburn. I was actually standing on a pedestrian bridge there at Dykstra Park in North Auburn, and I felt part of a log hit the bridge. That was a pretty interesting experience. Unfortunately here for the Green River in Auburn, it does not look good. So I was here as it was getting up to moderate flood stage there yesterday. You can see it dropped off quite a bit today, but it's still way up in minor flood stage. But look at what happens as we go into Friday night, and then into Saturday and Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, even into Friday of next week. We're looking a week out here, and it's still in moderate flood stage. This is really not a good situation for the Green River. This is, in fact, I would say about your worst case scenario for the Green River. I mean, this is a week in flood stage, and not just minor flood stage, way up in moderate flood stage. So 12,000 cubic feet per second. We can read the impacts here for that. So the Green River will inundate low areas from the middle Green Valley downstream to Auburn, with water over several roads, including Green Valley Road and West Valley Road. I'm not sure if this means West Valley Highway because I don't know what West Valley Road is. Levees from Auburn down through Tukwila may experience seepage and may weaken due to saturation. That is a big deal right there. A flow of 12,000 cubic feet per second on the Green River corresponds to a Phase 4 flood in the King County flood system. So this is, again, pretty bad. This is about as bad as you can get for the Green River, especially because of this duration. I mean, this is serious duration here. This is getting up into that moderate flood stage there Saturday morning and remaining there potentially through next Saturday. Again, this is subject to change because this is controlled by the Howard Hanson Dam upstream, but still, this is pretty bad. This is really not what you want to see for the Green River. Down here, Kelly asked, do you think Mount Vernon will flood beyond the 100-year flood areas? So for folks that don't know, there's a pretty dire situation unfolding along the Skagit River. Per official word, I believe, from Governor Ferguson tonight, people from Concrete downstream through Mount Vernon are evacuating. This is a level 3 evacuation. I'm going to go on my other screen here and try to pull up that evacuation map, and we can talk about it. The Skagit River 100-year floodplain. There is a map here, so we can take a look at that. So basically, when you're talking about the 100-year flood, it's going to be something above the flood of record. And this forecast for the Skagit River, I mean, if you're looking at this should really kind of send chills down your spine if you live in Mount Vernon. The record is 37 feet. The forecast crest Friday morning is 42 feet. I mean, it's not often that you see a river break its flood record by 5 feet. That is just extreme stuff. So we can read the impacts here, and then we'll take a look at that floodplain map. So when it passes 36 feet, and remember it's going to get to 42 feet, the Skagit River will cause severe near-record flooding from Cedro-Woolley downstream through Mount Vernon to the mouth. Deep and swift floodwaters will inundate and possibly damage many roads, farmlands, and residential areas. Levees may be damaged. Flood areas will also include headwaters, tributaries, and other streams in the Skagit Basin. This is Phase 1, highest phase there for Skagit County flood system. So I have that 100-year flood map here, and we're going to bring it in. So this is going to be a little bit wonky to try to view here on the stream, but we can do our best. So this is basically all the areas that are highlighted are areas that you expect to flood when the Skagit River reaches its 100-year flood event. So if we look at I believe there should be a legend down here. Yep, so this is anywhere in the yellow, I guess you'd call that a yellow shading, is within the 100-year flood area for the Skagit River. So if you start here up in Marble Mount, all the way down through Rockport and then into Concrete, has a lot of flooding over the banks there. Does it actually get into Concrete? It doesn't look like it does get into the town, but it's very close. But then as you get down the river, as the valley widens a little bit, you go through Hamilton, Day Creek, Lyman. I mean, these are areas that are really close to the river. You have big neighborhoods that were, in my opinion, poorly built right next to the river. That is a bad sign. But then things get much, much worse when you come out here to Mount Vernon. And so Sedro-Woolley, the southern part of the town, floods. Fields to the east and the west flood. But look at what happens when you get out here to Mount Vernon and Burlington. Parts of Burlington that are a little bit higher may be okay, but we're going to zoom in here a little bit, zoom in as much as we can here and look at what happens. So this is really kind of some scary stuff. So most of the town of Burlington floods in this scenario. Downtown Mount Vernon floods, especially west of I-5. And then look at basically so north of Burlington, all the way along Highway 11 up toward Edison. This all floods all along the Samish River because basically the water's trying to find the lowest spot. This is kind of a delta. So what you have happening is that it's just trying to find a way to get out to Puget Sound. And it's going to end up going down maybe an old riverbed, something like that. The Samish River is going to get to its highest flood ever. And that's going to exacerbate this down through Allen and Bow and Edison. And it's Samish Island as well. All of this is going to flood. And then when you look here to the south, look along Highway 20. Highway 20 could be flooding from Burlington all the way to Fidalgo Island and the Twin Channel Bridge. LaConner is going to be underwater potentially. Maybe not the entire town, but you get parts of the town that are low-lying are going to be underwater. This floods the Swinomish Channel a little bit there too because you're putting so much water into Puget Sound. And then look all the way down. Fur Island could flood. Conway, all that. If this reaches a 100-year flood, there is going to be a huge devastation in the Skagit Valley. And we can look here that just to kind of underscore how bad this could be, the National Weather Service in Seattle has issued a very rare flash flood watch. This is basically the next level of flooding. So you have a flood watch and then a flood warning, and then above that you have a flash flood watch and a flash flood warning. Flash flood warning, of course, is the worst type of flooding you can get. But this is a flash flood watch issued by the National Weather Service in Seattle. So you're looking here at what it's saying, flash flood watch for the potential failure of levees and dikes of the Skagit River below Sedro-Woolley to the mouth of the river in effect through late Friday night. So what is this? This is flash flooding caused by potential dike or levee failure for the levees and dikes of the Skagit River below Sedro-Woolley all the way out to the mouth, including Burlington, Mount Vernon, LaConner, Edison, Conway, and Stanwood. So that's the thing to note here with the FEMA map. It looks like it only includes Skagit County, so you get to the Snohomish County line here, and it stops showing there being any impacts, but there could still be impacts here. And you even got to look at backwater. I mean, look at some of these creeks way out toward like Lake Kavanaugh and stuff like that. You got flooding in backwater there due to the flooding there. So back to our warning, this includes basically all of the river from Burlington all the way out to the mouth. Through late Friday night, dike and levee failure may result in flash flooding. Extensive flooding of streets, homes, and farmland will be possible. This flash flood threat is in addition to the major flooding expected on the Skagit River. Heavy rain is causing extreme flooding of the Skagit River that is forecast to surpass the height of the dike and levee structures. This pressure may cause them to fail, which could lead to inundation in areas from Burlington and Mount Vernon into Padilla Bay and the Skagit Bay. So this is basically, it's not verifying that this 100-year flood will occur, but it's basically saying you have to be prepared. When you're talking that the flooding on these rivers is going to overtop levees, all of this suddenly becomes possible. So this could be quite a bad situation for a very big area of Western Washington. I mean, the Skagit Valley is a populated area. It's also a very productive area for agriculture, tulips, all that kind of stuff. So we have to watch this very, very closely. Going upstream here on the Skagit River to Concrete, where the record is going to be absolutely destroyed on the last forecast here. And note here, the Skagit River at Concrete, it's narrower, so you have even more place, you have less places for the water to go, so it just rises and rises and rises. So right now, it's already in major flood stage, well into major flood stage there. But look at how high it's going to crest, up to 46 feet. It's going to go up an additional 10 feet from where it's being observed right now. That is really scary to see. You can see it crests as we go into Thursday morning, then starts to drop, but doesn't get below major flood stage until early Friday morning. So the flood takes time to get down to Mount Vernon there because it crests in Mount Vernon on Friday, crests up in Concrete tomorrow. So while we look at that, let me see if I can get any live updates here on Twitter. Let me see what I can pull up here. So if you didn't hear me say it earlier, Bob Ferguson, our governor here in Washington State, said that there is going to be a large-scale evacuation going on across the region, and that is occurring. That is occurring already. They're evacuating large areas from basically up in Concrete all the way down to Mount Vernon. So yeah, we're getting a tweet here, some reaction from Senator Cantwell saying she just got off the phone with the Weather Service and is alarmed to hear that the Skagit River will peak 4 to 5 feet above the record crest level. Please stay alert and follow evacuation orders. This is not just another flood. So in the words of Senator Cantwell there, this is not just another flood. I mean, that's about as good as you could put it. It looks like here this is a flood warning. We'll pull this up here from the city of Mount Vernon. So this is on the city of Mount Vernon's website here. Flood warnings issued when flooding is happening or about to happen. So current conditions, the city of Mount Vernon is asking residents living in the 100-year floodplain to evacuate. That's what you're looking for there. So here is a map of that, and we're going to pull that up right here. This may take a second to load because I'm assuming there's going to be a lot of traffic on this site. So we're going to pull up this map, and we're going to look at the areas that are being evacuated. Again, this is just the city of Mount Vernon that we're looking at, not the entirety of Skagit County. So areas all the way up here toward Concrete and then all the way down the river are being asked to evacuate as well. But this is just what we're looking at for Mount Vernon, and you can see it's taking quite a while for it to load something. So we're going to kind of let it sit here. We'll come back to it in a minute. But the Skagit River at Concrete, so your record's 42 feet. We're going to come down here and look at that. It does look like there was potentially is keyed in here a record of 69 feet in 1815, but for obvious reasons you can see why that may be a little bit questionable. So here we go. 40 feet is what the highest impact scale here we're looking at is. But again, it's going to get to 46 feet, so it's going to be even worse. So at 40 feet, the Skagit River will cause severe near-record flooding from Rockport downstream through Sedro-Woolley. Deep and swift floodwaters will inundate and damage roads, farms, and businesses and residential areas, especially Cape Horn, Hamilton, and Thunderbird. Cockrium Island, the Nookachamps, and Sterling areas will be inundated. Levees east of Sedro-Woolley may be damaged. This is a Phase 1 flood in the Skagit County flood system. This one's important. So levees east of Sedro-Woolley, then up toward Concrete, could be damaged in this flood. Damaged may be too light of a word. So here is what we're looking at for the evacuation. So the orange you see here is the FEMA flood zones that are just being shown here for a portion of Skagit County. Again, this is what we just looked at on that map. But if we zoom in, these areas in red are the areas of Mount Vernon that are being asked to evacuate. So we have this little area here on the east side of the city, and then you have these areas from, looks like near the Anderson Road exit there on or the old Highway 99 area on I-5 up through downtown Mount Vernon. Basically, from Division Street southward in Mount Vernon, I-5 is the line of where you need to evacuate. But as you go north of Division Street there, looks like the line briefly is North 4th Street, and then it cuts over here as it just kind of follows the river. So it looks like you are able to use I-5 to evacuate is what they were saying earlier. So Walmart, Panda Express, Lowe's, those areas all could flood. Zooming in here a little bit more, Coastal Farm and Ranch, all these stores, Tractor Supply, even the Skagit PUD, ironically enough. The railroad tracks will flood. And just a note there, all Amtrak service is suspended from Seattle to Vancouver until further notice with no travel alternatives. So it looks like your evacuation route from downtown Mount Vernon would be to either go south down I-5 or to go west on Highway 536, then take a right on Highway 20 and go north toward Burlington, which itself could flood. So you want to get out and get further north there. So just want to say again, be sure if you guys have questions about a river, put it in the chat. I will take a look at it. We've been talking about the Skagit River here for a while. We've been talking about this 100-year floodplain that could very unfortunately flood as we go over the next couple days as the Skagit River reaches an incredible level that really has never been seen before if these forecasts verify. So please put a Please put your questions in the chat or your observations, and we'll take a look at all of it. Amy asks here, the White River on the border of Sumner and Pacific. That is another one that unfortunately is not looking good. So we're going to take a look here at the White River at R Street in Auburn. This is the only gauge that has that flooding parameter on it. So we're going to look at that right now. Here is where we're at. It's actually dropped somewhat. It crested earlier this afternoon and moderate flood stage at 10,500 cubic feet per second. And then it's going down back into action stage. But then we're going to see, look, as we go into Friday, it rises way back up into moderate flood stage and could remain in moderate flood stage all the way into next week. And this is not good for this area, especially for Pacific, where you have a temporary flood wall that could be endangered. So you're getting about to 11,000 cubic feet per second. At 10,000, river flooding may begin to occur upstream of the A Street Bridge in the city of Auburn. River levels will likely be up against the temporary flood protection barriers, with flooding likely at Government Canal and Butte Avenue in the city of Pacific and downstream of the Stewart Street Bridge in the city of Sumner. The Stewart Street Bridge, I believe, is closed right now. It was closed as of last night, and it may stay closed. If we get higher, a major flooding will occur with the lower White River, with potentially the chance of overtopping the temporary flood protection barriers, and many structures could be inundated if that happens. So you got to watch the White River really closely. If this trends any higher, it could be pretty bad. But just the duration of this here, looking all the way into the middle of next week, is not good. All right. Lane as the Puyallup River in Puyallup. So let's take a look at that. The Puyallup River in Ording is down out of flood stage right now. It's down into your normal levels, but you can see it's going to go way back up, and we may be cresting again in major flood stage at the Puyallup River in Ording as we go into tomorrow morning before it finally drops off once more. But the Puyallup River in Puyallup, that has been causing a lot of problems. If Highway 410 is closed right now in Sumner because that water is getting up into the road there. So looking at the Puyallup River in Puyallup, it's holding steady there in minor flood stage. It's likely going to get a little bit higher as we go through the day tomorrow before starting to drop off as we go into Thursday and Friday. Now, what we're going to look at here, first of all, the Puyallup River has not gotten above 27 feet since 2020, and the last time it got above that was 2020, 20, and 2015, so kind of going every 5 years here. It's going to get to 27.9, nearing the crest it got. If we look at the historic crests, back in the 2006 flood, which obviously was a pretty bad one. So at 26 feet, the Puyallup River floods low-lying and flood-prone areas along the river from just downstream and west of the Meridian Bridge in Puyallup, upstream to the east end of Sumner. At 30 feet, the Puyallup River will flood the low reaches of the river from Sumner downstream to the mouth, overtopping and damaging levees. That's not happening, but we are seeing more damage than expected. Rivers have been higher than expected here, and you have had some people moving out of the area, sort of evacuating, I guess you could say, self-imposed, because that has not been. There was some evacuations and some damage potentially down in Ording earlier today, but there was not anything too significant going on in Puyallup. But the Puyallup River will remain above flood stage all the way through Thursday and then finally drop down as we go into Friday morning. So hopefully that answers your question there, Lane. Sailor Spirit asking, what type of info do you have for the Nooksack River? All right, Nooksack River, first of all, a great source for anything in Whatcom County would be Whatcom County Weather on Facebook. That's run by my friend Randy Small. Taking a look at the Nooksack River, first of all, let's just note, this will not be as bad as 2021, but that doesn't mean that it's not going to be a bad event. So here's the South Fork Nooksack River down at Saxon Bridge. It's cresting, looks like lower than expected right now in action stage, so that's good. Maybe dodged a bullet there. However, the Nooksack River up at Cedarville here, North Cedarville, up into moderate flood stage, and it's going to get very close, about 0.3 feet off the record there at North Cedarville. So let's take a look at some of the impacts we could have here. Let me let this load here. So Nooksack River, North Cedarville, currently in moderate flood stage, may rise about another foot as we go into tomorrow morning, being just off that record there. At 148 feet, the Nooksack River will cause widespread flooding downstream through Linden, with swift floodwaters covering some farmlands and roads, and erosion may affect some riverbanks. If we get up toward that record of 149.6 feet, which was set back in 2021, At 150 feet, which we're going to be at 149, the Nooksack River will cause major near-record flooding downstream through Linden, Deep, and Swift. Floodwaters will inundate farmlands, roads, and residential areas. The flood may overtop levees. In addition, floodwaters could overflow and flood the Sumas drainage. Sumas drainage there. The flooding will occur all along the river. I don't think we're going to get to this level of the Sumas Prairie flooding and stuff that we had back in 2021. However, that doesn't mean it's not going to be bad here. Taking a look at the Nooksack River in Ferndale, it's going to get up to moderate flood stage and kind of a prolonged crest there we're looking at in Ferndale. So let's take a look at that here. We're going to get it to load here. So we're up in action stage right now. We get up into moderate flood stage Thursday morning on the Nooksack River in Ferndale, and it crests, look like as we go into Thursday evening, stays above moderate flood stage all the way into Friday morning, about 12 hours up at that level, then finally drops out of action stage, out of bankful by the time we get to Saturday morning. And so we're going to be at 22 feet. So at 22 feet, the Nooksack River will overflow levees and banks along the east bank of the river from Hovender Park downstream to Marietta, causing widespread flooding from near Ferndale downstream to the mouth with swift floodwaters in residential areas and over farmlands and roads. Erosion may damage some riverbanks. Flooding within the city of Ferndale affects Main Street in the vicinity of the Whatcom Transportation Authority station. So it looks like some bad stuff could happen there. Again, not as bad as what we got in 2021. 2021, you're looking at 23 feet, 23.8 feet. You're looking at only about 22.0 here, although it doesn't seem like much. There is a big difference there. So hopefully that answers the question there about the Nooksack River. Kelly says, I hope everyone who's needed to evacuate was able to evacuate safely. Yes, definitely. Hey, Puget Sound Stormwatch in the house. Anthony, thank you for joining us. Anthony on Puget Sound Stormwatch there has streamed for like 18, 20 hours in the past couple days and has provided some really good coverage at the while he is just sitting there for hours streaming. I deeply respect that. But so go follow Puget Sound Stormwatch for some great coverage. He finished up his coverage for tonight. What has he missed? Not much. We're just talking about the flooding right now. Excuse me. All right, let's go to the chat here. Just seen an uptick in the Issaquah Creek forecast, 12.8 feet, 2,971 cubic feet per second. Now, let's see, did they just update that while we were talking about it? We started talking about Issaquah Creek. That was the first one we talked about. Let's see. Let's get it to load here. All right. So did they update that forecast? Let me see. You can tell. Yeah, it looks like they did update it. So again, that we already talked about these impacts, big flooding in Issaquah when you get to moderate and major flood stage. So you really got to watch out in Issaquah there. All right, let's back up a little bit. Legit Gamers has just picked up the right stream, was just on Puget Sound Stormwatch. Awesome. Shifty Vids asks, how's the Yakima River looking? Yep, throw in some more questions, you guys. We'll keep looking at the rivers. Shifty Vids, if you're still watching, where are you wanting to look on the Yakima River? Because the Yakima River has a bunch of different areas that could flood. I want to make sure I pick the right one for you. Oh, by Prosser. Okay, you said it in there. So the closest one we have to Benton City is at Keona there. So let's take a look here what we got. So wow, that is going to get almost all the way to major flood stage there. That is pretty significant. Also, there's a high wind warning. We'll take a look at that here in a moment for Eastern Washington, because I know I got some of you watching from Eastern Washington here. Okay, so Yakima River by Prosser and Benton City. Look at how long the crest is here. So you get above minor flood stage tomorrow morning. You crest as you go into Friday night into Saturday morning, almost at major flood stage. And then you drop down out of flood stage there, not until Monday morning. Get out of bankful by Tuesday. So at 15.69 feet, so at 16 feet here, there will be flooding of the RV park in Benton City along the river, extensive flooding in the West Richland area from Twin Bridges to the Columbia River, including the West Richland Golf Course and along Kingston, Hyde, and Jones roads. So hopefully that's helpful to you there, Shifty Vids, I believe that was. Mark asks, hi everyone, why does Monday wind look bad? We can take a look at that real quick. I don't actually think I have a wind forecast open here. Let's pull one up. Monday wind, that's looking pretty far out. We may have another system coming into the area. So as we go through, it looks like Mark, that's the next system that's going to come into the area, and it might pack a little bit more punch with some of the winds. But again, that's looking I mean, it's only a few days away, but we got so much to focus on right now. We will take a look at that. I assure you, they're here in the next few days. So stay tuned for more on that. Be prepared for some wind. Speaking of wind, I'm going to look at this high wind warning for Eastern Washington. I didn't know that that was issued. So you do have one up for the Stevens Pass area, potentially gusts up towards 70 miles an hour. All right, so here's a high wind warning. They're in effect for including Pasco and the Tri-Cities there. So look at this right here. Pasco, Tri-Cities, Prosser, Connell, all that. High wind warning in effect until 7 a.m. Thursday. Southwest winds 35 to 45 miles per hour, gusts up to 70 miles per hour. Strongest winds are located in the Hanford Reach area, especially along Rattlesnake Mountain. Elsewhere, so down in the cities, expect winds of 30 to 40 miles per hour with gusts up to 55 miles per hour. So just a quick look real quick. First of all, absolutely crazy downslope stuff going on there in Yakima, or sorry, not Yakima, Wenatchee. They just had a temperature of 68 degrees, and keep in mind it's 11 o'clock at night and it's 68 degrees in Wenatchee. That's crazy. It's 64 in Yakima, got some of that downslope warm wind coming in there. It looks like we've gusted to 58 miles per hour in the Tri-Cities so far, 63 degrees there right now. Huge gusts in Spokane, 54 miles per hour right now. Over in Pullman, you're looking at about 35 mile per hour gusts, over 50 earlier. Moses Lake gusting to 35 miles per hour. We can make this a little bit more populated there. We can zoom in. Rattlesnake Mountain, what they're talking about in the warning there with the highest gusts. Let's zoom in. I think it's this station right here. Yeah, Rattlesnake Mountain, that verified 82 miles per hour there. Obviously, no one lives up there, but look at some of these stations at Hanford gusting to 60 miles per hour there. Gable Mountain, maximum 93 miles an hour. So you got some pretty crazy stuff going on around Eastern Washington. All right, back to the chat. Remember to throw in your questions about the rivers, you guys. You're welcome, Amy, for the reporting. Good evening, Keith. Good to see you. Moving to Birch Bay, yeah, it might not happen. It's already coming over areas in Ferndale. Is it flooding already in Ferndale? Put your reports in here as well, guys. I want to be able to get some live updates about what's happening. Any concerns in the Bellevue area? As far as rivers, not really, but you're going to get we're going to get some more rain in here. So let me pull this up. This is the high resolution rapid refresh model, and this definitely brings some cause for concern because this is rain through Friday morning. You can see we may get another inch for parts of King County as we go through Thursday mainly, because we're going to get some more rain coming through the area as the atmospheric river moves back through. Look at the mountains, maybe another 4 inches. This is just going to cause a ton more flooding potentially. You can see 1 inch to 1.5 inches in the foothills near North Bend there, 3/4 of an inch in Tacoma and Olympia and Shelton, 1 inch to 1.1 inches there near Renton. So the biggest thing I would say for Bellevue, watch out for more standing water. Creeks could be running really high. And then watch out for landslides, you guys. We're going to pull up the landslide map right here, actually. So, or the landslide graph. See if it is... let me find it. Okay, here it is. So this is... We looked at this on the live stream I did back on Sunday, I think, and we weren't near the hazard levels. But if you guys have been following what's going on here throughout the last few days... there is obviously some pretty big landslide threats. We've had I-90 close twice. Okay, so here is what we're looking at right now. This is not good. So these shapes show different airports, and these airports are kind of talking about different areas around the region. So once you get above the red line, you are going into hazardous conditions for landslides. The only one above that right now is SeaTac, and it looks like it's going to remain above that. Tacoma's getting close. Everett's the square, it's getting close as well. Boeing Field not as close. But basically, if SeaTac Airport Station there is showing a high chance of landslides, the high chance of landslides exists around the area. So yeah. All right, let's see here. Callie Hamilton asks, with more rain on the way next week will be dicey. Yeah, I hate to even mention it right now, but there is potential for another atmospheric river coming in next week. So we have to watch it very closely to see how it plays out. Prayers to everyone, Lane says. Yeah, definitely. Sailor Spirit, Marietta is already bad. The more you go toward Lummi Island, it gets worse. Yeah, that's about what I expected to hear there. Crystal asks, what is the name of the channel? My channel is Western Washington Weather. If you're looking for Whatcom County, it looks like it's Whatcom County Weather with Randy Small there. Been crazy windy for the last couple days in eastern Washington, definitely. Already flooding in Ferndale. Ask here, do you think there's a chance of ISD cancellations tomorrow? That's something really good to bring up. Let me see if I have it in my list here. The school closures. I believe I had it bookmarked on my old blog. Let me pull that up. There are school closures. We're talking about the biggest amount of school closures we've seen since whenever our last snowstorm was, which has been a while, as you would expect. Okay, we're gonna pull up the school closure here. All right, we're gonna get the Como school closures up here. All right, you guys are probably familiar with this site from snow events. All right, so look at all this. We got a lot to talk about here. So we are going to start just up here on the top. Arlington School District, all schools are starting 2 hours late and no out-of-district transportation. Auburn School District, 2 hours late, no out-of-district transportation. This is important because you got two rivers in the Auburn School District there. Chief Leschi schools are closed. Ferndale School District is closed. LaConner School District is closed. Lakewood School District, I believe that is North Sound. Correct me if I'm wrong there, you guys. 2 hours late. Mount Vernon is closed, which makes sense because they're evacuating people. Muckleshoot Tribal School is closed. Northwest Regional Learning Center is closed. Ording School District is 2 hours late. Puget Sound ESD in Seattle has 2 hours late, I believe, there as well. Riverview School District closed. Skagit Valley College, all campuses are closed. Skykomish School District is closed. That is due to flooding in the school building. They've got some pretty bad stuff going on there up the Sky Valley. Snohomish School District is 2 hours late. Snoqualmie Valley School District obviously closed because the entire area is going to be shut down. Sultan School District is 2 hours late. Taloha School District out on the Washington coast is 2 hours late because of road flooding and high tides. White Pass School District is closed because the road is closed. And the White River School District is 2 hours late. So this really covers a lot of areas near rivers. We'll leave this open because obviously you guys are going to want to know about that. Back to the flooding here. Let me take a look. Let me catch up on the chat here, you guys. Yeah, I didn't see Issaquah School District on there. They might need to be on there if the Issaquah Creek there is going to get that high. Ocean Waves asks, any concerns for Maple Valley and Hobart? This allows me to talk about something that is ongoing right now. The Cedar River is getting potentially to an all-time record high. So this is the Cedar River at Landsberg. I have been out. If you know what the Cedar River at Landsberg looks like, it is absolutely rocking and rolling when it gets up into major flood stage. I mean, just the crazy rapids right there. So also just seeing another chat I'm in here, 112 mile an hour gust up at Mission Ridge, and Blewett Pass is closed due to high winds. That's pretty significant. That doesn't happen very often. All right, Cedar River at Landsberg. The all-time record here is 10.4 feet. We're at 8.2 feet right now. We're getting up to 10.4. It's going to tie that all-time record. And to answer that question about Maple Valley, this flows through Maple Valley. So at 7.5 feet, we're going to get up to 10. Keep that in mind. The Cedar River will cause severe flooding from Landsberg downstream through Maplewood. Deep and swift floodwaters will inundate many roads and some residential areas, especially in Maple Valley. Flooding will occur all along the river, including headwaters, tributaries, and other streams within and near the Cedar River Basin. This is a Phase 4 flood, the highest flood in the King County flood system. So that's my concern for Maple Valley, and Hobart is the Cedar River. Hobart, you may also be dealing with that flooding from Issaquah Creek, so keep that in mind. Keith says there are a bunch of road closures in Whatcom County already. Yes, there are. It looks like Sailor Spirit there is saying some of the closures. Crystal says, found your Facebook just now. There's a lot of great Facebook pages out there to follow. Amy asks, can you explain the reports regarding them opening a dam? Amy, can you say here in the chat what dam you're talking about? We got a few in the area, so type down there what dam you're talking about, because there's a few that are going on. Karen Locke says, does anyone know when I-90 eastbound might reopen? Got a few relatives stranded, wondering how to get home. Yeah, let's take a look at I-90. There were some photos posted here about that debris flow that happened, and we'll see if we get any information about what's going on. So let's open here. Here is the scene. This is some photos from Trooper Rick Johnson who is the District 2 trooper there. Look at this. I mean, that's a debris flow right there. You can see how it's not just a landslide, but look, you got water coming down. And people actually, there were cars that were stuck in this, but no one was injured. This car here looks like it was almost taken off the road. I mean, this is crazy stuff here. I-90 still closed from this because you got full trees on the road. So, and you got big barrier damage and stuff like that. You got, obviously the water's still flowing. I don't think there is an estimated time to reopen this, unfortunately. So, and then the alternate routes up there are just kind of crazy. I mean, there's so much stuff that is closed. Let's zoom out here. Let me go up and look at I-90. We'll look at the traffic situation right now. All right, hold on. Let me get some things off of here. All right, here is Google Maps, and we're not going to look at that way. We'll look at the WashDOT map. That's going to be a lot more helpful. Let's pull that up. So we can look at traffic cameras here. So we'll leave the DOT map here. There's a crazy amount of road closures right now. I mean, they have a banner on the site that there is a crazy amount of road closures. Because really, folks, and I don't think I've said this yet, but it's safe to say that this is a historic event for Western Washington. I mean, genuinely a historic event. Looks like there's a silver alert going on as well. That's why this is covered in red. All right. Let's get the cameras up here. We'll zoom in. So here's I-90, closed basically from Highway 18 to downtown North Bend. And then, so here's your alternate route, is to go down Highway, if you're coming on Highway 18 there, and then you exit at, I believe, North Bend Way, and you can take that into downtown and then try to get back on later. I imagine that the traffic is downright terrible right in here. Let's take a look at the camera. Let's see if we can pull that up here. Yeah, it looks like there is some traffic in there. They might be diverting everyone onto Highway 18. I'm not sure. No, it looks like there's some people getting through. So here is the alert, and we'll see what they say here. Yeah, on I-90 eastbound, this is updated at 8:13 p.m. On I-90 eastbound from Winery Road to 436th Avenue, all lanes are closed. Law enforcement is directing traffic through this area due to water over the roadway. All right, guys, be sure to ask some more questions. We got to get, I want to get as many questions answered for you guys as possible while we're on here talking about the river. So be sure to ask some more. Bill Bowers, welcome to Basic Channel Support, Level 1 Channel Support there. Awesome, thank you. Let's see, talking about Issaquah School District here in the chat. They would not close it yet, maybe, due to the effects are not full yet. Might have to act fast. Yeah, for sure. Sammamish River in Bothell. Let's take a look. The Sammamish River is so interesting because it doesn't actually, we don't even have a flood gauge on the Sammamish River. Well, I don't think I'll be able to give you, Darby, a accurate forecast here for the Sammamish River because we don't even have a flood gauge on it. But what I can tell you is that you have Issaquah Creek flowing into Lake Sammamish there, which obviously has a major, is going to get in a major flood stage. So I would say that the Sammamish River will be higher than normal, but I don't know to the full extent that it could flood. But it will definitely be higher than normal because any creeks flowing into Lake Sammamish, and obviously Issaquah Creek is basically a river, big flooding potential on Issaquah Creek and all that. So we're going to have flooding potentially in the Sammamish River. I don't know how much, though. I unfortunately can't answer that because we don't have a flood gauge on it. Talking about the Issaquah School District here again, should have called for a delay. There are staff that have to travel far. Several teachers were in traffic going to North Bend for 5 hours. Yeah, it's going to be pretty crazy out there with some of that traffic. Ocean Wave says possible Tahoma School District closure. I mean, it's possible. I don't know how many schools are down along the Cedar River, though, because that's kind of the only thing that goes through the Tahoma School District. So it's possible. I would say not super likely. Legit Gamer 21 says Skagit County Broadcastify, that's a police scanner, is saying a debris flow reported on North Shore. I'm not sure what is North Shore. I don't really know what that is. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about that unless it's verified, but that's the kind of thing you're going to hear about in Skagit County is that kind of stuff going on. Annette asks, how about Highway 2 over Stevens Pass? Highway 2 is closed over Stevens Pass until further notice due to significant amounts of mud over the roadway. So you can see it's closed from Index down towards Skykomish and then over Stevens Pass. I believe these are for two separate things. This, I believe, is for the Skykomish River, and then you have the mud over the roadway over Stevens Pass. So if you're trying to get to Leavenworth, all that, you got to use different routes. I am just being told now as well that Blewett Pass is closed due to high wind. So it's pretty difficult to get across the state right now. If you want to get across the state right now, you got to take this detour through North Bend and then go over Snoqualmie Pass. And then White Pass is also closed as well. So this is not good. Be sure to ask some more questions, guys, about the rivers. While we don't have any questions right now, I will take a look at the Snoqualmie River because I'm sure a lot of people want to know about this one. So the Snoqualmie River, we're looking at Snoqualmie Falls, crested earlier at 70,000 cubic feet per second, one of the top 5 highest floods on record. The next forecast here shows that it's going to crest at 76,000 cubic feet per second on Thursday morning. That is going to be, I believe, the second or third highest flood ever recorded at Snoqualmie Falls, and then it starts to go back down as we go into Thursday night into Friday morning. Bill Bauer says in the chat, someone I know works for King County Wastewater. They said the city or wastewater plant in Carnation is cut off. The person at the wastewater plant has been there for 2 days. Yikes, that's bad. There is some big flooding happening in Carnation. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. So we're already at 60 feet in Carnation, and it's just going to stay there. I mean, it's going to stay at 60 feet in Carnation all the way through tomorrow night, and then we still stay in major flood stage all the way into Friday morning. So I've heard actually just recently that Carnation is technically an island right now, and that it's hard to get in or out. I believe it. Excuse me. Got to get a drink of water there. So Carnation, not just a sewer plant or the water treatment plant's cut off, but I mean the whole town is cut off. Let me catch up on some updates here on another screen. Be sure to ask some more questions about the rivers, guys. Kelly, thank you. Yeah, there is a lot to cover for sure. We'll take a look at some more stuff that is going on here across the region. All right. Now, Carnation is basically cut off right now, which is not good. We're starting to get houses flooded and stuff like that. And this is just the beginning, unfortunately. We have a lot going on here across the regions. You can see Carnation just getting up to 60 feet. It's going to stay at 60 feet for almost 24 hours from now. So we can look at what that means for Carnation. Let's take a look at that here. So let's pull this up. So again, 60 feet is what we're going to be at for Carnation. At 60 feet, the Snoqualmie River will cause severe near-record flooding from Fall City downstream through Carnation and Duval. Deep and swift floodwaters will inundate many farms, residential areas, and roads. Flooding will occur all along the river, including headwaters, tributaries, and other streams within and near the Snoqualmie River Basin. That's as bad as it gets. Quite simply, it's as bad as it gets for the Snoqualmie River at Carnation. Let's cover some more in the chat here. Skykomish at Gold Bar. Yeah, let's take a look at that. There has been some crazy stuff going on up there. My friend Ben Yurkovic on Livestorms Media there got a video of a water rescue up in Gold Bar earlier today. It's kind of crazy. Last time I was up in Gold Bar, I was covering a wildfire, and now we're looking at major flooding. So you can see this is why it's so bad in Gold Bar. We got above major flood stage this morning, and we have been there all day. It's not going down. It's going to stay in major flood stage again as we go into tomorrow, and we're looking at just half a foot below the all-time record, and it stays in major flood stage all the way to tomorrow night before finally starting to get down into Saturday and Sunday. So we are at 24 feet right now. The highest impact thing we get here is 22 feet. So at 22 feet, the Skykomish River will cause severe near-record flooding from Index downstream to Monroe. The river will flood many homes, cover much of the farmland, close most roads, and overtop most dikes. Again, this is where you're getting that water rescue kind of thing coming in there. Flooding will occur all along the river, including headwaters, tributaries, and other streams within and near the Skykomish River Basin. That's pretty bad. That's about as bad as you can get up there. What's the most? Claire asks, "What is the most accurate place to find how much rain in different cities have received so far?" I pulled up a site for this because we don't have a list published just yet from the Weather Service. Of course, before I talk about that, I just wanted to note that there was just a 60-mile-per-hour gust in Wenatchee, getting 51 miles per hour up north near Leavenworth a little bit there. So really strong winds across eastern Washington. If I got anyone in eastern Washington here in the chat, tell me if it's windy where you are or not. Let's take a look at precipitation. I'm just going to go back as far as this goes, which is the last 3 days. You're basically looking at from a Sunday night all the way to now. This is actually a pretty good thing, kind of showing our atmospheric river. All right, and this is why it's flooding. Look at that. Alpental at Snoqualmie Pass, 10.8 inches of rain since Monday, 6 inches in Snoqualmie. We got 3.5 inches here Federal Way, 4 inches a little bit south there, 4 inches in Auburn. You can see that rain shadow, Seattle only getting about 2 inches, 5.5 inches over in Maple Valley, up towards 6 inches there. Look at some of the areas that drain the Puyallup and Ording area. Puyallup River there, basin getting 7 to 8 inches of rain. And we're going to, hold on just a second here. I'm sorry, we're getting something going on in the chat here that needs to be addressed immediately. Sorry about that, you guys. Apologies for that. They're just a very bad thing that someone posted in the chat. That person has been banned from the channel permanently. Very sorry about that. That is absolutely not what this channel stands for in any way, shape, or form. Very sorry about that, you guys. Let's continue with the rivers here. So south of Mount Rainier, you get just some crazy amounts near Paradise. A foot of rain. Just think about that for a second. Just think about what a foot of rain would be like. I mean, think about holding a ruler and then looking at all of that being rain. That's crazy. That's why the Cowlitz River has had a pretty rough go of it. I mean, the Cowlitz River is still in major flood stage, I believe, or at least it was. Looks like it's finally dropping down there. You can actually, nope, never mind. It's not. It's still in major flood stage. It's going to stay in major flood stage all the way until, let's see, when is this? Until Friday morning. So that's what happens when you get a foot of rain upstream. So you got a foot of rain in Paradise, and then downriver of that on this Cowlitz River, it's, I guess, Paradise and some areas near it, near Stevens Canyon. All of that area got a foot of rain, and then you keep it stays in major flood stage for 3 days. Look at down near Lewis, in parts of Lewis County here, 7 inches of rain along areas north of Reef Lake. Look at that, 4.5 inches in Chehalis and Centralia. Olympia Airport has reported 4.8 inches since Monday. Shelton has reported 6 inches. And look at the southern slopes of the Olympics. It's interesting, we don't actually have that much flooding in these areas because they're able to absorb so much rain, because they just get some crazy they get crazy rain all the time. 17.5 inches near Lake Quinault. That's the biggest number I've seen here so far, and that, of course, is not surprising. But then you also have some rain shadowing going on near Port Townsend. Look at near Everett. They've only received 1 inch of rain in Everett. Some areas near Linwood have received a 1/2 inch, while just to the south, like here at my house in Federal Way, you got 3.5 inches. Whidbey Island has received 2 inches. These totals go up as you get toward this, and this is the Skagit River. I want to talk about this. 8 inches in Marble Mount. If you zoom out a little bit near Baker Lake and stuff like that, 7 to 8 inches, up toward 9 inches for some of these mountains. 3 inches in Bellingham so far, and that's continuing still. So again, that's why the Nooksack River is flooding, because it wasn't originally forecast to flood, and now it is. So let's catch up on the chat here. Yeah, all right, here. Mr. Angryface says, my partner is going to take the train to Leavenworth and a ride to there from Ellensburg. Is that a no-go? What train? Is that the Amtrak Empire Builder? Because if it's the Amtrak Empire Builder, I don't know if that is running. Let me get a status for you there. All right, let me get a status for you here. Take a look at Amtrak for you. All right, hold on. Continue asking questions, guys. Tim Kays asks, how's Nooksack up in Whatcom County? The Nooksack is in moderate flood stage all the way down the river, and it's going to remain there through tomorrow. Not looking as bad as 2021, but it's close. Let's go to... I just put in Seattle to Wenatchee here on Amtrak. I just want to see what it's showing me. My guess is that... Yeah, so service between Seattle and Spokane is canceled on Amtrak. Just note. So you have service between Seattle and Vancouver canceled on Amtrak, and service between Seattle and Spokane canceled on Amtrak. And I don't believe they're providing any alternate transportation because obviously that's a huge headache getting across the state or up north right now. Tim Kays, I've heard Everson is flooding and some areas near Linden as well. Yes, it looks like it's already starting there. I'm in Spokane. We are having pretty crazy wind this afternoon. Gusts as high as 40 miles per hour. Blew my car around and made it hard to walk. Yeah, it'll do that for sure. Calm down a little now. Don't worry, the trolls are always around. Yeah, unfortunately, but we were able to get it taken care of pretty quickly, so thank you guys. Calm down quite a bit in the Pullman area. Was gusty earlier. Yeah, I believe that. Will I-5 be closed down? It's a good question because something we haven't talked about yet is that the Stillaguamish River is going to be flooding in a big way as well. The Stillaguamish River is nearing the record. I don't think it's going to get to a level where I-5 will flood. I think it may get close, but I don't anticipate I-5 being closed for the Stillaguamish River. If I-5 is going to close, it's going to be, again, because of all this stuff going on with the Skagit River and its potential all-time record high flooding. That is the reason I-5 may close, but I don't know if that's going to happen or not. We kind of have to just wait and see. Right now, the city of Mount Vernon is using I-5 as a flood evacuation route. So as we see in the chat here, we don't know if I-5's flooded just yet, but we will have to watch closely. J4RC, thank you very much for the super chat here. I very much appreciate your generosity. Could you go back over the flooding around the Green River in Auburn? Thanks for helping keep us informed. Of course, very glad to do this for you guys. Here is the Green River in Auburn. So this is really just not a good situation here. You can see the Green River in Auburn is starting to rise again, and it's going to continue rising. We may have a little bit of a peak tomorrow, and then look as we go into Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all the way in next week. It's staying at a very high level. This could be very problematic for a lot of people in Auburn, and then downstream even toward Kent and Tukwila. Remember, this drains out into Puget Sound at the Port of Seattle, and you get all these logs and stuff going down there too. That's problematic too. So Green River in Auburn in moderate flood stage all the way. This goes until next Saturday. So I really hope this doesn't verify because this is going to be really bad for areas in Auburn. HBR at the Crossroads says, does anyone know if I-5 flooded? I-5 is open right now, both down in Chehalis and up in the North Sound and up toward Skagit County. I-5 is open. I-90 is not open, going eastbound out of North Bend or between Highway 18 and North Bend. So I-5 is open. I-90 is not. Not sure what train it is. We do need SkyTrains. Yeah. Is there any rain forecast for tonight? Let's look at that, because looking here at the radar, you can see it's starting to fill in a little bit, especially in the North Sound. They're getting a lot more rain, but you can see how some of this is pushing south. We have another round of rain coming up here for parts of the Central Sound, including parts of the South Sound here. So you can see as we go into Thursday morning, that rain picks up again. We kind of are off and on as we go through the night, but as we go into the morning, that rain picks up again. Then that rain shadow opens up a little bit as we go into the afternoon there. But this round of rain will likely bring up to another inch to parts of the area. Then it hangs out up in Burlington, that area, all the way into Thursday night. Again, this isn't helping any of the flooding end. You can see if we look at that, we'll zoom in here across Western Washington. For the total rain through Thursday night, you can see up to an inch around Arlington and Everett there. A little bit of that rain shadow right over Seattle, but you can see about a ½ inch to 3/4 of an inch around SeaTac, an inch here Federal Way, Tacoma, Puyallup, and then look at the Cascades. You're looking at 2 to 4 more inches of rain in the areas where all these rivers originate: the Snoqualmie River, the Skykomish River, the Cedar River, White River, Green River, Puyallup River, all of that going to get 3 to 4 more inches up at the headwaters there. So it is really we are not nearly out of the woods yet. Not even close. All right. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question. There is more rain forecast for tonight. There's more rain forecast through tomorrow afternoon, and then for some areas even into Friday. And then our next system potentially comes in as we go into this weekend, and then we may have another atmospheric river going into Monday. But that's a little bit more uncertain. We have to watch it closely. We can take a look at some of the Euro ensembles here in a minute. Spyman says the live cam at the Amtrak station in in Lacey is showing heavy rain for the third straight day. Yeah, I mean, Olympia has gotten like 5 inches of rain this week, so definitely that makes sense. What about I-5 near Centralia? There were some exit off-ramps that were closed yesterday, but I-5 is open in Centralia. We can double-check that here with the DOT map, but you can see there are no closures on I-5 in Centralia. It is open. That is good to see. Not my real name says I'm in Bellingham and near Bellis Fair. I'm going to try to get out in the morning to see if there are any closures and flood area on Meridian and Telegraph North. Yeah, if you guys have flooding photos and stuff, send it into the Western Washington Weather Facebook group. I'll try to approve those posts as much as I can. Kelly Hamilton says Chehalis I-5 gets affected during major flooding. Yes, thankfully we are not that major. For at least for Chehalis. You got to get these rivers around Chehalis into major flood stage. They are in moderate, but they're in moderate in areas where they don't affect I-5 as much. You can see the Skookumchuck River there in Bucota is in moderate flood stage, kind of cresting right now. The Chehalis River in Grand Mound is in moderate flood stage, also cresting right about now because these areas kind of stopped getting rain already and they're not going to get much more versus areas up here in the Central Sound all the way up through the Canadian border. You can see a prolonged crest there, though, for the Chehalis River near Grand Mound. You got up into moderate flood stage on Tuesday. You're going to stay there until Friday night. That's pretty crazy. Let's take a look real quick, actually, for those of you down near the Chehalis River in Grand Mound, kind of see what you may be going to experience, what you may be experiencing here. So it's going to be at 143.5 feet. Closest to that is about 142 here. So Chehalis River in Thurston County will flood several roads in Independence Valley and will with swiftly moving water, including US 12 and James Independence, Moon, and Anderson roads. Floodwaters will cut off access to and from Chehalis Reservation and inundate nearby farmlands. Some residential structures may be threatened. You could have a little bit more widespread flooding than that too, based on some of these levels. And then the Chehalis River flooding all the way. Or this is actually the Satsup River. I didn't know this one was flooding. So let's take a look at the Satsup River there. It's cresting right now. So if you guys are just joining in, we got 200 people watching. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and share. We've been looking at all the rivers across Western Washington. I've been answering questions about all these rivers. So please, if you got questions and you're just joining, throw them in the chat. I will go and answer them, even if it's something we've already talked about. It never hurts to talk about it more to get the word out there. Swinging the Dead says, I work in Anacortes near the refinery. I kind of thinking it's not a good idea to head out there in a flash flood advisory. Yeah, if you're talking about the Skagit Valley, definitely don't head out there. My battery's running low here on the computer. Let me plug it in real quick. All right, we're back, folks. Yeah, I wouldn't head out to Mount Vernon right now, especially if you don't have a good way to get out. I mean, if you're coming from the south or something if you're coming from the south or north on I-5 and you're able to just hop on I-5, then you're probably not in too bad of a situation. But if you are on like Highway 20 and stuff like that, it may not be a very good idea to go out toward the Skagit River. Thank you guys for joining. Thanks for joining the chat here. It'll take many days for all the water to drain out of the river basins and the ground is saturated. Yeah, Spyman, you're right. Is Mount Vernon going to be okay? Unfortunately, I would not say Mount Vernon's going to be okay. I would say, in fact, the Mount Vernon could be in a very big amount of trouble. We should get the latest forecasts in here just now. Let's see. 41 feet is your expected crest on the Skagit River in Mount Vernon, breaking the all-time record. Sorry, 42 feet. There we go. Yeah. 42 feet, breaking the all-time record by 5 feet. it's going to be pretty bad. That's basically all we can say here. To answer the question about Mount Vernon, Ivan, this is the evacuation map for Mount Vernon. Level 3 go now evacuations. So if you are in these areas, if you're watching and you're in any of these areas, you got to get out as soon as you can, because this flooding is coming. It's going to be bad. If you're really in the 100-year floodplain of the Skagit River, you should get out if you can. Let's see. Yeah, so I don't think Mount Vernon is going to be okay, unfortunately. Dan's Backcountry, welcome to the chat, my friend. Thank you for joining us. This weekend should make for some interesting footage for your next video, filming into the storm, basically the perfect environment. The Olympics should be pretty dynamic. Yeah, absolutely. You're going to get some good footage for sure. Actually, we do have some flooding going on the Olympic Peninsula. I want to point that out real quick. The Elwha River in Elwha there, just to the west of Port Angeles, crested in action stage and is since dropping. It was at one point forecast to go all the way up into major, so thankfully that did not happen. The Bogachil River there in La Push is going to be flooding, and this causes some really big impacts, even just at moderate or at minor flood stage there. So it's cresting now and is likely going to start going down, which is good news for the people in La Push there. Let's take a look. At 37 feet, the Bogachil River will cause flooding of Highway 110 near the Bogachil Bridge, closing the road. So there might be a little bit more going on than just that. But yeah, there's going to be some flooding around La Push. Let's keep going here in the chat. Old-fashioned at heart. I'm in Stanwood, near the flood area by the river. That's the Stanwood. That's what river is that? That's going to be the Stillaguamish, right? Yeah. But Stanwood's in an interesting location because it's a low-lying area right here at by Camano Island there. And you could get flooding from the Skagit River being so high and the Stillaguamish River being high. So, and we know what happened here in the town of Silvana back in 2023, where the town got cut off by some of this flooding. So the North Fork of the Stillaguamish River in Arlington is going to get into major flood stage, going to get very close to that record. So if you're in Arlington, you got to watch out for this, because this is going to be, this is not going to be good. Let's see. You're going to get very close. I mean, you're getting to 14 or 15.09 feet. The record is 15.6. At 15 feet, the North Fork Stillaguamish River will cause extensive flooding from near Darrington downstream to the confluence with the South Fork of the Stillaguamish, including Oso, Cicero, Swede Haven, and Highway 530. Floodwaters will also cause riverbank erosion. Flooding will occur all along the river, including headwaters, tributaries, and other streams within and near the North Fork of the Stillaguamish River Basin. Yeah, so bad stuff coming up for Arlington. You got to be ready for this. Okay, let me catch up here. Got a lot of new messages coming in. 2020 was bad for Issaquah. We can, yeah, let me check here about what 2020 was. 2020 was pretty, it kind of gets lost in the fact that COVID happened and the shutdowns and everything all started like literally a month later. But there was a big flooding event in 2020 in the entire region. We had kind of a 1-2 punch of atmospheric rivers that caused widespread flooding back in February 2020, just about a month before all the COVID pandemic stuff began. So 2020, you're looking at Issaquah, you're probably thinking of this one. 12.3 feet that was one of the highest crests ever there on the Issaquah River, or Issaquah Creek, highest since 2009. So as at 12.3 feet, what you're looking at here is 12.8. So this is unfortunately going to be higher than 2020 in Issaquah. So I'm not exactly sure what that means, because I did not see the Issaquah Creek then in 2020, but that doesn't sound good. Highway 20 Reservation Road, to get out of Mount Vernon, yeah. Spyman says, many large log jams pressing up on bridge supports and rivers in western Washington. Yes, that is... that's going to be a major problem here. And you got even the DOT going out toward Homeacres Road on US 2 trying to clear that out of the EB Slough. When can you talk about the Silvana on the Stillaguamish River? Let's go back up to the Stillaguamish. We can try to look at Stanwood and all that. The closest river gauge to that is this website's going to take a second here. Hold on, you guys. The closest river gauge to that is going to be the Stillaguamish at right there at Arlington. After they both combine, after both forks combine, that is going to be the closest to Silvana. So, and you can see it's going to get Stillaguamish River, Arlington. It's getting up to 17.5 feet right now. It may continue to rise overnight. We'll see how much it does. When we get that to load, let me double check what's going on here. So, yep, Stillaguamish River in Arlington. Let's take a look at this. So it's going to get up to 20.6 feet. So at 20 feet, the Stillaguamish River will cause near-record major flooding. Deep and swift floodwaters will inundate many roads, including Highway 530 east of Arlington and at Island Crossing, and most valley roads downstream of I-5 to Stanwood. Levees are subject to overtopping and damage. Flooding will occur all along the river, including headwaters, tributaries, and other streams within and near the Stillaguamish River Basin. So, yes, it's going to be... We can see what this will compare to. So 20.6 feet is the forecast crest. This is not going to be as bad as 2023 when you got that all-time record. So it will be close, but it's not going to be as bad. So it's good that it won't be that as bad, but it's still not going to be a great situation there. Doom Junkie says, is Auburn going to be okay? If you live near the White and Green Rivers in Auburn, it's going to be kind of a rough go of it here. Both are forecast to flood potentially for a week. So we have to kind of watch that very, very closely. I think I just talked about Stanwood. They're old-fashioned at heart. So anything along the river by the levees could be a problem in Stanwood with the Stillaguamish River's forecast. What about southeastern Washington? I live in the Tri-Cities, right between the Columbia and the Yakima. Yeah, we looked at that earlier. Let me look at it again here. The Yakima River is having pretty significant flooding here. So it's going to be kind of a long, spread out flood here on the Yakima. You can see that you have flooding beginning up into moderate flood. It gets into minor flood stage tomorrow morning. Moderate flood stage begins Thursday night there. And then you see it crests late Friday, early Saturday, and doesn't get below minor or moderate flood stage until Sunday morning. Finally gets out of flood stage by Monday, and then remains at bank full all the way to Tuesday. So pretty long flooding time there for parts of the Yakima River Basin. All right. Puget Sound Stormwatch says the Elwha River flood warning was canceled 2 minutes ago. That's good to see. Dan's Backcountry says he's going to plan to do a float down the Skagit in January and try to survey changes with your drone. Oh, that'll be pretty cool. We talked about Stanwood. Imagine if all this rain was falling on a heavy snowpack. This would be much, much worse if that was happening. So we did get lucky. Hey, Joey Only in the house, fellow Northwest forecaster checking in from British Columbia. Thanks for the intel. Of course, thank you very much for joining the chat. Okay, do we expect high traffic congestion on I-5 in areas around the Skagit River due to evacuation? Very possible. I don't know how many people are either A, actually evacuating, or B, taking I-5. We can actually, there are traffic cameras up there. We can kind of see what's going on. It looks like it may be a little bit slow. It doesn't look like there's too much traffic right now. Well, that camera's not working. So let's see. There's not much going on. I mean, it's 11:30 at night, but this could increase as we go into tomorrow. Again, the Skagit River and Mount Vernon won't crest until Friday morning, so we have a little bit of time for people to evacuate. So they got to keep going. Dan's Backcountry says, "I'm wondering if the Walmart in Mount Vernon is going to get totally flooded." Dan, let's put it this way. I believe the Walmart is in a level 3 go now evacuation zone. So yeah, there's a Walmart right there, literally right next to the river. This is the bridge that collapsed for folks unfamiliar with the area. Back in 2010, I believe the Skagit River Bridge collapsed. That's right where this is, what we're talking about here. So a lot of downtown Mount Vernon is in this level 3 evacuation area. For Issaquah, this just found the peak crest in terms of cubic feet per second. 2020 was 2,416. Right now it's forecast for almost 3,000. Be the third highest since 1990. Yeah, pretty bad. Pretty bad coming up there for Issaquah. Connie asks, have you done Nisqually? No, we haven't. Thank you, Connie, for mentioning that. Let's take a look at the Nisqually River. So that's going to be right here, the Nisqually River near National Washington. This is above the Alder Dam. We'll look a little bit below there down by Nisqually itself. So you see two crests here already. Got to moderate flood stage Tuesday morning, just scraped major flood stage this morning about 5:45 a.m. has since declined, but you can see it's going to rise again up into moderate flood stage as we go into Thursday before declining once more. Looking downstream there on the Nisqually River, as we go down toward JBLM, this is at McKenna, you can see that it has not gotten into flood stage, but it's going to stay in action stage at Bankfull for at least a week. Again, this is a river that's controlled by a dam, and that's kind of the thing we're seeing. So let's take a look at what this means. Action stage is 8 feet. We got to show some more impacts here. So 10 feet is about the highest it's going to get. It may stay at that level for a while. So the Nisqually River at 10 feet will flood at the lower end near its mouth. High tide levels on Puget Sound may increase the amount of flooding. The Nisqually River will also spill over its banks between LeGrand and McKenna. So it doesn't sound like a huge impact, but it will definitely be high. So hopefully that answers your question there, Connie. Spyman says the Nisqually River starts high up on the side of Rainier, and it's been pouring buckets high up on the mountain and not snowing. Yeah. One True Cat says we're probably not going to have a Walmart for a while here. I hope that the store itself is not damaged so much that it is beyond repair, but it could be interesting to see the kind of damage that happens here with this forecast. Dan's Backcountry says I-5 bridge over the Nisqually this morning and evening was rather nasty looking. Yeah, it's probably pretty high right now, I would assume, up there on I-5 at Wenatchee, at the Nisqually River. Let's take a look while we go ahead and ask some more questions, you guys, about some rivers. I'm going to keep this live stream going until we'll probably give it about 10, 15 more minutes or so, because I do need to get up early tomorrow morning to do our next video and then go out and see some of this flooding. Be sure to ask some more questions, though, while we're on here. A Brilliant Blessed Mess says, I'm in Enumclaw. What's your risk? Enumclaw, not much going on, really, up in Enumclaw. Stay away from the White River if you can. But the White River kind of is outside of Enumclaw, so I don't think you're going to have any problems. The biggest problems for Enumclaw would be dealing with the traffic in Sumner, getting down off of 410. Joey Only there from BC saying all highways from British Columbia interior to lower mainland are cut off. Vancouver is cut off from the interior tonight. Let me pull up. I just saw something about that from my good friend Ryan Voutilainen up in Vancouver. I believe he had a post about this. Yeah, okay, let's take a look at this here. For any of you who are familiar with British Columbia, I happen to be. So this is Ryan, a great guy to follow here. He also has a Facebook page. It's called Vancouver and the Lower Mainland Weather Page on Facebook. I hope I got that right. So he said there is no getting to the BC interior tonight, all closed. So what you have closed here is BC Highway 1, that's the Trans-Canada Highway from Yale to Lytton and eastbound between Bridal Falls and BC Highway 9 at Hope. BC Highway 3, the Crow's Nest Highway, is closed from Hope to Princeton. BC Highway 5, the Coquihalla, is closed from Hope to Merritt. That's a beautiful highway. I've been on it not that long ago. And BC Highway 7, the Lougheed Highway, is closed between Hope and Agassiz. So everything's closed. And it looks like Highway 99 in BC between Pemberton and Lillooet is closed due to heavy rain and weather conditions. So, yeah, you can't get out of Vancouver tonight. So that is that's not great to see there. And we're kind of dealing with the same thing here in Western Washington, just to a lesser extent. And I'll go over that real quick. So what you have going on, let me take the cameras off so we can see the road closures. What you have going on, obviously you have the North Cascades Highway closed. It's closed for the season. Looks like Highway 530 is closed. They're outside Rockport. Highway 9 is closed in Whatcom County there. Going a little bit further to the south, Highway 203 is closed just south of Monroe because some major flooding is expected there. Highway 2 is closed in 2 locations from Index to Skykomish and then over Stevens Pass, both due to flooding. There's a myriad of road closures here in the Snoqualmie Valley. Highway 203 is closed from Carnation to Falls City. Highway 202 is closed from Falls City to North Bend. And I-90 is closed eastbound from Highway 18 from North Bend Way to 436th in North Bend due to a debris flow. Moving to the south, we do have a few more closures here. Looks like Highway 410 is back open in Sumner. Highway 162 is closed between Orting and South Prairie, and then Highway 410 is closed from just outside Enumclaw down to Greenwater. And then, of course, you have Chinook Pass closed for the season. And then looking down here on Highway 12, Highway 12 is finally back open, it looks like. It looks like a detour going on there near Randall, and Highway 131 there is closed. And other than that, in the southern portion of the state, it looks like we're doing okay. But it's really the central part of the state here in the North Cascades. A couple more here. Highway 906 south of Snoqualmie Pass near Hyack is closed due to water over the roadway, literally like a current of water through there. And then Highway 10 is closed near Teanaway due to flooding. And then just recently, Blewett Pass is closed both directions from milepost 150 at the junction with Highway 970 to the junction with US 2, or about 6 miles south of there. There's no estimated time of reopening, and that, I believe, is due to wind. We're having some kind of insane wind going on right now. Looking at your current wind gusts, yeah, it's currently gusting to 101 miles an hour at Mission Ridge. So that kind of tells you why US 2 is closed up in that area, or US 97, pardon me. Obviously, you're not getting 100 mile an hour gusts on US 97, but in the area, I mean, that's pretty crazy. Let's go back into the chat here. Skokomish River and Skykomish River. Let's take a look at both of them. Dan's Backcountry asked about the Skokomish River over here on Hood Canal. Of course, if you know anything about Pacific Northwest weather, you probably have heard that this river floods all the time. So this is actually very typical that it's in moderate flood stage. You can see this is going to stay in minor flood stage for literally an entire week. Not that surprising. So Dan, to answer your question, lots of flooding on the Skokomish, but also nothing out of the ordinary at all. This literally happens every year. The Skykomish, one difference in letter, huge difference in the story there. We've had some really big problems on the Skykomish at Gold Bar. It's staying in major flood stage for the next 12 plus hours here, possibly all the way into tomorrow night. You can see we reached 24.09 feet, about 0.4 feet short of the all-time record there on the Skykomish near Gold Bar, and it's just going to remain pretty high. Yeah, so that's what's going on for the Skykomish. Puget Sound Storm Watch saying, this is important to note, the flash flood alert is a watch, not a warning. Flash flooding is not imminent. That is for the Skagit Valley, where you have the potential for dikes and levees to be overtopped. It's not a warning. A warning would mean it's imminent and happening. That is not the case, but it is a potential. Yeah, Joey only there saying no route from Vancouver into the interior tonight. That's why I'm checking on your rivers here, concerned about how much will rise. Yeah, definitely. Dan's Backcountry, how's the Hamahama River doing? I don't think there's a gauge on that one. Let's see. I don't even know where that is. So you got the Duckabush River. Yeah, there's not a gauge on there. I would assume it's pretty high because there's been some decent water in there, a lot of rain up in the Olympics, but I don't see any gauge. Or we can look at the Duckabush River just to kind of see what's been going on. You can see it's risen, but the eastern side of the Olympics is rain shadowed, so you're not going to get nearly as much rain over there. Leanne says, remember to hit the like button. Yeah, thank you guys. Please hit the like button, and please subscribe to help grow the channel. Elizabeth asked, do you have any current information about LaConner, Washington? We have distance from the Skagit River, but we seem to be in the flooding area. Is that what you see? Essentially. So, Elizabeth, what we're talking about here is the 100-year floodplain event. So any area in yellow here is the 100-year floodplain for the Skagit River, and we may reach that 100-year flood event. So I've zoomed in a ton here on this map, and we can look at LaConner. So LaConner has this kind of hill in the middle of town. That area should be okay. However, look at all these sloughs. All these things are all connected to the Skagit River. You can see the Skagit River's outlet is very close to LaConner. If this all floods, LaConner could get some flooding. So if we get to that 100-year flood, LaConner could get flooding in there as well. So I would watch out for it. I'd be prepared. That's why that flash flood watch is in effect, because there's a chance that the levees could be overtopped, that the dikes could be overtopped, and that LaConner and those areas could get flooding. I mean, look at that. The Skagit River outlet is not that far from LaConner. So if you are in LaConner, it does look like you could be able to evacuate by just crossing the Rainbow Bridge and going up onto Fidalgo Island. So that's the only kind of the part of good news for La Conner is that it's easy to evacuate if you have to, but I hope that doesn't happen. If you live in La Conner, in any of those areas out here in the Skagit Valley, in Burlington, Mount Vernon, any of that, please stay tuned to all your local authorities. I mean, we heard it on Twitter tonight from Senator Cantwell. Do not treat this like any other flood, because it really is not. It is not any other flood. She's right. This is something we haven't seen in a very long time, and we do have to really be prepared. Skylar Hernandez asked, winds picking up again here in Spokane. Can you see what we're gusting to? Yeah, let me look at Spokane real quick. Looks like gusting to 49 miles per hour at the airport. 54 is the peak. Over at Fairchild Air Force Base, about the same. Yeah, so pretty strong gusts. 54 miles an hour is no joke. What about Cedro Woolley? Vanessa asked. Yeah, thank you guys. I see you guys saying thank you in the chat there. Yeah, no problem. Anytime, you guys. Cedro Woolley. We can look at the floodplain map here again. Let's move over to Cedro Woolley. Let's scroll up. All right, so Cedro Woolley, you can see is I think these things are levees or something. You can see where the flooding is going to be on the south side of Cedro Woolley. There may be some fields and stuff to the east, and then a ton of stuff off to the west. So if you are in Cedro Woolley, pay attention to authorities. Know where you can go to get out of the flooding, which here I guess looks like going north, even though you can't go north too far because Highway 9 is closed. But yeah, right now it looks like Cedro Woolley is okay, but you could get some flooding right up very close to town. So be careful. Anyone really along the Skagit River, this has the potential to look pretty bad. So let's take a look at the Skagit River again, just because this is something you don't see that often, that something happening like this. So the Skagit River in concrete, we are in major flood stage right now. We are going toward the all-time record. You can see it is steadily rising. It is not going down at all. You're likely going to get up to 44.4 feet. That is 2 feet above that all-time record there up in concrete. And even if you don't get all the way to there, you're still going to have very devastating flooding. And then going down to Mount Vernon, see if we get the latest forecast loaded in here. Let's see. Yeah, latest forecast, 10:30 p.m., 41 feet, 41.2 feet. The record is 37. So this is something that has not been seen in a very, very long time for the Skagit River especially. So if I were to tell you guys the areas that are going to be worse for this flooding, obviously the Skagit River Valley is probably the top of that list. The Snoqualmie, Snohomish River Valleys are all going to be pretty bad as well. In fact, we've gone this whole stream and haven't actually talked about the Snohomish River at Snohomish. So thank you guys for asking that in the chat right now. Look at that. The Snohomish River in Snohomish is already above major flood stage. It's going to keep going all the way into tomorrow afternoon, and then we get to the record level. It ties the record level and stays there for over 12 hours, almost 24 hours at the record level. Doesn't get below major flood stage until Saturday morning. So let me pull this up real quick here in Snohomish. So again, this is going to tie the record, and it's going to stay at a record-tying level for like 12 hours. So at 33 feet, which is the record, the Snohomish River will cause severe near-record flooding. Floodwaters will likely overtop levees, with major levee damage possible. Floodwaters will inundate much of the river valley, including US 2 west of Monroe, Highway 9, and the Lowell Snohomish River Road. Flooding will occur all along the river, including headwaters, tributaries, and other streams within and near the Snohomish River Basin. A stage of 33 feet on the Snohomish River corresponds to a Phase 4 flood in the Snohomish County Flood Program. That is not good. That is really not good for the city of Snohomish, so you got to watch that very closely. If you're in the town, if you're near the river, don't be near the river if you live there. You got to get out if you can and protect things. All right, Barbara asks, is Carnation safe? Unfortunately, Carnation is very much the opposite of safe right now. The Carnation gauge here on the Snoqualmie River is at 60.39 feet. That is very, very high. We're approaching top 10 flooding territory there on the Snoqualmie River in Carnation, and it's going to remain at that level all the way into Thursday night and then still into Friday morning before it starts to drop. What I'm hearing through a mix of unofficial and official channels is that the town of Carnation is cut off. all the roads going into Carnation are closed, and we can look at that here. We'll pull up the King County road closures here. So here's road closures in unincorporated King County. This will be, how do I pull this up? Hold on. I think this is what we want. Yeah, this is what we want right here. Okay, so you can see there's kind of just a crazy mess of road closures here. So Carnation, you can get into Carnation a couple ways. You can get in on Carnation Farm Road, which is closed. You can't even get down to Carnation Farm Road because you got a bunch of roads closed here in the western part of the valley as well. And then Tolt Hill Road, which you can get into, there is closed as well. You can see the West Snoqualmie River Road closed as well, along with the Fish Hatchery Road and Neal Road there, alongside the highways that are also closed. There are a couple cameras in here which you can look at as well. There's the Tolt Hill. It's pretty small, but you can see there's a road closure there. And then as you go north, 124th Street, which is known for flooding, is closed. I believe there is water over this roadway here, but you can't see it. Woodinville Duval Road is still open. That's pretty much your only way to get across the valley. All right. Let me catch up on the chat here. Ivan says, I'm supposed to visit Leavenworth arriving December 22nd. Should I start looking for plan B? Not yet. I wouldn't start looking just yet. I mean, that's still 12 days out. But what I would do is monitor Stevens Pass. If Stevens Pass is going to be closed for an extended period of time, you might just have to take a different route. We got people saying here, if you're in LaConner, evacuates in the immediate evacuation zone, and traffic and closed roads will only get worse. If you're able to evacuate, honestly, and you're concerned about it being bad, there's no harm in preemptively evacuating, even if you haven't, say, gotten a notice from police that you need to evacuate or something like that. It's never bad to evacuate if you feel the need to, even if you haven't been officially told to. MTSW saying Carnation will be cut off when the Woodinville Duval Bridge closes, so the Carnation is not yet cut off. Well, that's good to know. I'm surprised that 203 is still open north of Carnation there. So we'll see how long that takes. We'll see how long it takes if it ends up getting cut off there from Duval down to Carnation. So it looks like your only way to get into Carnation right now is to go down Woodinville Duval Road and then south down Highway 203, which is dangerously close to the huge flooding on the Snoqualmie River. So I wouldn't be surprised if Carnation does get cut off at some point. Ivan says I'm supposed to arrive to Seattle via Amtrak train, then shuttle from Seattle to Leavenworth. If the rail lines are open, it shouldn't be a problem. So just monitor Amtrak and all of that. Joey Only says, good luck, friends. Got to get some rest and see what I can say to BC tomorrow. Good broadcast. Yeah, thank you very much, Joey, for tuning in. And be sure to subscribe to Joey's channel as well if you guys are looking for great weather information all across Canada. Really some great stuff on there. Wow, Spyman, thank you so much for the generosity. That really helps the channel a lot. Thank you so much. Puget Sound Stormwatch saying huge W. Yeah, thank you so much, Spyman. Thank you for your insight on the stream as well. If you guys, we still got 212 of you guys watching, so I'll look at the upcoming forecast here, but please ask some more questions about the flooding. I know it's midnight. We can keep going a little bit longer. I probably actually won't do a full briefing in the morning. I'll probably just do a short, try to do some short updates throughout the day for you guys. I'll likely be out storm chasing in probably the Snoqualmie Valley where some really bad flooding is going to be happening. So I'll be out there chasing. I'll try to do some updates for you guys. I probably won't do a full briefing because things are kind of going to be coming to an end, and the biggest thing is going to be kind of the now casting per se going on with the flooding. So here's the European model precipitation type. As we go into Thursday, you can see that second round of rain kind of pushing in there, filling in as we go into Thursday morning across parts of the Central Sound, and then that diminishes as we go into Thursday afternoon. We get some more showers potentially into Friday, and then we dry out a little bit as we go into Saturday, finally. But some rivers are still going to be flooding, especially the White and Green rivers down there in Auburn. That's something we are going to have to watch very closely. As we go into Saturday night, this next system moves in, which is actually part of our atmospheric river, pushing back through the area and pushing out. You can see another round of rain as we go into Sunday afternoon, and then that rain picks up again as potentially another atmospheric river hits the area as we go into Monday morning. And what concerns me about this is that it won't be that far away from when the rivers were already high, so they won't have had very much time to drop down, and we may have another round of flooding. Because look at this, there's no snow falling in the mountains. There's the only snow you're seeing there is Mount Rainier and the North Cascades. You can see as we go through Monday, we get more of that heavy rain, but very little snow. That rain continues through Monday night into Tuesday. Then we cool down as that cold front moves through, and we do start to get some snow in the mountains. But you can see even through Tuesday, getting more rain in the lowlands. Hopefully most of this will be snow in the mountains, and we'll be able to finally cool off a little bit. But and then you can see we still remain wet, hopefully getting more snow, though, as we go into the middle to the end of next week. So maybe a little bit of hope here. But what we want to see, if we want snow, is going to push that atmospheric river pattern further south down toward California. But it looks like we may not be out of the woods yet with having another atmospheric river here. So this is the precipitable water. If you guys have been watching the videos, we've kind of been looking at this forecast for like the last few days. And you can see that as we go here over the next 12 hours, you can see how this kind of pushes north, but it does still bring some of that rain into the Puget Sound area. Then it pushes out as we go into the weekend. And you can see it's still going up here by Haida Gwaii in northern Vancouver Island. And then you can see how as we go into Saturday midday and then into the afternoon and evening, it's still there, and now it's just pushing through the area. So this is kind of interesting that it pushes back into the region and then pushes out. But then you see right behind it, this is the old atmospheric river, the one that's impacting us now. Look at this next one, is straight from Hawaii, basically classic Pineapple Express right there. That's your signature Pineapple Express. I mean, that's actually pretty cool to see it showing up on the forecast like that. That's your Pineapple Express right there, going straight from Hawaii up into Oregon and Washington. But it's a little bit more progressive. It doesn't hang around as long. You do still get a decent amount of rain with it, but it starts to push down into California. Now, could this cause some impacts around San Francisco, the Central Valley and all that, and the Sierra Nevada? Absolutely. That's something we have to watch pretty closely if you're down there. But the second round is not going to be as bad for Western Washington. But, of course, we have to watch any potential flooding, because anything could be bad. Any more rain we get, quite honestly, could be quite bad across the region. So let me check in with the chat here again in just a moment, you guys. Yeah, let's see here. I don't see... Go ahead and be sure to ask a few more questions, you guys, if you want to. I will wrap this up soon. Let's say we stream until about 12:15 a.m. here. We can do that. We'll go until 12:15. So got any last-minute questions about the rivers? Just tuning in. Be sure to go and get those questions in now so we can so I can get as many answers as I can about these rivers. We've got obviously a ton going on. I mean, we've been talking most of this time about just the rivers. We haven't barely talked about the forecast at all. We've just been looking at these rivers. So let's see. Spyman says the worst flood I ever saw was in December 1964 when the waterfall in the Willamette River in Oregon City was underwater. Salmon were seen swimming in downtown Portland. Man, that's next level. That's crazy. I didn't know that even happened. That's super cool. I'll have to research that. Amy asks, so would you say trying to go see the lights at the Tulalip Casino on Fridays a no-go? Well, Tulalip Casino, that is... You could make it. You're not going to have any problems really up there, I don't think. The only thing is if the Snohomish River is still flooding up into Marysville. So maybe I would check I'd check the website for Tulalip. I would check the conditions, use the traffic cameras, look at I-5, see if there's water around there. My guess is... you'd probably be able to make it, but it may not be a very good idea. If I were you, I'd just hold off until the weekend or maybe early next week. I mean, those lights are going to be up for a while, aren't they? Also, side note, if you can go see the lights at the Tulalip Casino, they're really cool. I would go check that out, but just make sure it's not when there's a bunch of flooding. Let's take a look at the radar again here. You can see kind of getting a little bit more coming in here. I hear some light drizzle falling here at my house in Federal Way. Any news on the Lewis River in Southwest Washington? Let's take a look at that. The Lewis River, that's way down here, isn't it? Oh, it's a little bit further down. The Lewis River at Woodland. You can see it got up to Bankful, and it's pretty high, but it's not in flood stage yet. So it looks like you're good on the Lewis River. It's going to remain elevated all the way through Saturday, but then it drops off to somewhat more normal levels. So I don't see any big problems coming up there for the Lewis River. Looks like kind of dodged a bullet. It's interesting because some areas around Portland, Northwest Oregon, Southwest Washington got some pretty big rain amounts, but the flooding was just not as bad. The Cowlitz River near Kelso is interestingly, it was above what it was forecast to do, which is kind of interesting. So it's still in minor flood stage right now. It's going to drop down to action stage, and you're going to remain there in Kelso all the way over the next few days here, all the way out toward next Wednesday, still remaining up in action stage there. The Grays River at Covered Bridge there near Roseburg, Washington. This has been in flood stage for quite a while. Look at that. It rose up into flood stage Monday morning and has stayed there ever since and got up to major flood stage there Monday evening, dropped down a bit, and is still in moderate flood stage. And it's going to remain there all the way through tomorrow. So this has been a long one for the folks living out there in Wahkiakum County. Let's see what else we got going on here. I'm trying to find any rivers we haven't really looked at yet. South Prairie Creek, that's South Prairie Creek is going down. I don't know if it's going to get up to this crest again, but Highway 162 is closed between Ording and South Prairie. All right, Tara Ortega, I have family in Chelan County. Any updates on the Wenatchee River? Yeah, the Wenatchee River, that's a pretty interesting one. So here is the Wenatchee River at Peshastin. This is really impacting the area between Leavenworth and Wenatchee. You can see right now it is in minor flood stage. It's going to get up to moderate flood stage, one of the highest non-springtime snowmelt floods quite a while on the Wenatchee River. Gets up to that crest tomorrow morning. So let's take a look at what those impacts could bring. Tara Ortega says, I know there's power outages. Yeah, there's some pretty big winds going on. You can see the high wind warning in effect right now up in Leavenworth and Wenatchee. So you get that crest tomorrow morning, 14 feet. So at 13 feet, flooding is likely in low-lying areas, especially the Kashmir area. At 15 feet, major flooding is likely throughout the valley between Leavenworth and Wenatchee. So I would say it's going to be somewhere in between those two. Amy says, been trying to go out for years now to see the lights. We're looking to go Friday, but this weather isn't looking good. Yeah, the rain will have mostly stopped, but with all the flooding going on, I would say it's probably better to not try to go and see that, because the lights up there in Tulalip are, of course, in a very low-lying area. One True Cat says, how long can we expect the water to linger in the Skagit Valley if the levees are overtopped? That's a great question, and that is something that is way out of my zone of expertise. I would say that when levees are overtopped, that water can linger for quite a long time. And if the Skagit River does truly flood to the levels that it may get to, and it does overtop those levees, we could be looking at a pretty bad thing going on there with Skagit River. So I don't know how long it's going to stay high, but it could be a few days. We could be seeing impacts in the Skagit Valley into this weekend. How about the Okanagan River? We're at so Okanagan River going up here toward Omak. This area has been somewhat sheltered from the rain. So this is the Okanagan River up at Tenasket. You can see it's risen a little bit, but it's been relatively steady because the rain shadowing has been pretty intense here in the North Cascades. So the Okanagan River is fine there near Omak and all that. Elizabeth says, Hello from Hillsboro, Oregon. I have a friend who lives in Langley on Whidbey Island. Is there flooding occurring on the island? No, the island is good. The island doesn't really have any major rivers. It's included in all the flood watches and stuff like that, but there's no major rivers there on Whidbey Island, so there shouldn't be too much flooding unless there's some creeks that are running pretty big. But Langley here on South Whidbey Island has also been part of a pretty dramatic rain shadow that's been going on. So Langley is actually probably doing the best out of some areas around here in terms of flooding. Um, Let's take a look again. We'll refresh this page here on KOMO News of the school closings. We have an amount of school closings that is comparable to some of the snow event closings and stuff like that. So we'll take a look at that here in just a second. Let me answer Jamie's question in the chat about the Snohomish River. The Snohomish River at Monroe, it's in major flood stage already. It's going to stay there. You can see we're basically going to get to the record there at the Snohomish River in Monroe. Let's take a look at that. Let's take a look at that here. So let's get down to that. So it's in major flood stage now. We crest as we go into Thursday night, into Friday morning, and drops out of flood stage as we go into Friday night. 25 feet is what we're going to be at. At 22 feet, that's the highest we can get here. The Snohomish River will cause severe flooding with deep and swift floodwaters inundating farmland, residential areas, and roads. Levees could suffer overtopping and major damage. That's a huge concern there. Flooding will occur all along the river, including headwaters, tributaries, and other streams in the Snohomish River basin. So Snohomish River in Monroe, really bad. We've already been looking at the Snohomish River in Snohomish going to be at record levels, at the all-time record level there for almost 24 hours. So bad stuff coming up there in Snohomish, the town, as well. Unofficial Washington State Wildfire Aware. Thank you very much for giving me this information here. Highway 203 north of Carnation is closed. It just isn't listed on WashDOT for some reason. But road closed signs are north of 203 on 203 at Carnation Farm Road. So what he's saying there is that 203 is closed north of Carnation there at Carnation Farm Road. I'm not surprised by that. Because look at how close 203 is to the river right there. So now that does mean that Carnation is an island right now. You cannot get out of Carnation, even if you tried. You could, if you had a boat, you could try, but that's a really dumb idea because you'll end up floating down the river. So basically, Carnation is blocked off, and that is a pretty kind of a surreal feeling. I'm sure that would be. Jamie's in North Everett. The closest gauge to you there, Jamie, on the river is at North Everett, at Snohomish, which is pretty close to Everett, right before the delta. So yeah, really big flooding coming up. It's already in major flood stage. It's going to get to basically tying the record, and it's just going to sit there. So that could be pretty bad. Stump Years asks, is there going to be a specific spot the levees or dikes are going to be topped or fail for this gadget, or just generalized? I unfortunately don't know that area well enough to find any specific low spots for you, but I don't think I'd be able to figure that out anyway. Levees are going to fail at pressure points. They're going to fail at places where you either have water turning or something like that, or you have it getting eroded or weakened. I'm sure people will be able to figure it out as it's or before it's starting to happen, but just watch out. Be careful up there. Unofficial Washington State Wildfire Aware saying that there's technically a dirt road that connects to Duval, but it's not for people to travel with. So that about the worst thing you could do right now is try to get into an area that's blocked off on a dirt road after the area got 8 inches of rain. I don't recommend that at all, and plus you'd probably get in trouble with locals, and that's definitely something you don't want to do. Jamie asks, what about Linwood, Washington area? No rivers flooding in Linwood, but Linwood's actually, it's funny, Linwood's actually doing pretty good. They've only got about a half inch of rain there because this rain shadow has just been so persistent across areas north of Seattle. Claire asking, how do people get notified they need to evacuate? I'm in Seattle, but just curious. Thank you for all you're doing. Of course, I'm very glad to help you guys. For people who have been asked to evacuate, what I've been seeing is that people are getting when you get an Amber Alert on your phone and your phone starts vibrating and stuff like that. I've had that happen to me in wildfire zones or in tornado zones. That's what's happening. It's an emergency alert that's sent out through the EAS system, the emergency alert system, and it gives everyone that notification that the river is flooding and you need to evacuate. So, for example, everyone in Mount Vernon in these red areas here got that alert and said they need to evacuate. It's a level 3 evacuation. It's basically just like what happens with the wildfire. What's a rain shadow? That's a great question. Let me just, you can actually see it really well here. So a rain shadow is, this is really fun stuff to talk about. Basically, the atmospheric river's moving in. You have all this rain hitting the slopes of the Olympics here, and it basically eats it up. There's no rain left when it moves over the Olympics because it all rained on the Olympics, and then you just get this empty area kind of, and you get way less rain on the leeward side, the downwind side of the mountain range. The best example of that here is the Cascades. I mean, look at that. All the rain hits the Cascades, and then it all gets kind of wrung out like you're wringing out a sponge. And then you can see on the side here, on the east side of the Cascades, you get no rain because of that rain shadow. Yeah, hills can cause rain shadows too, Spyman says. King County flood warning system. Yeah, that is that's going to be utilized here. That's what C. Jernberg there is saying. The King County flood warning system is how people get notified in King County to evacuate. So you got a similar thing going on in Skagit County as well. Unofficial Washington State Wildfire Aware says check the precip rates near Duval. Yeah, you can see it right in there. You got a little band moving in there. That's not, the radar scope does not work well on this device, but let me pull up the zoomed in radar. We'll just stop it on the last frame. Let's see. Yeah, this is why the Snoqualmie River keeps rising. I mean, you got areas here, even though it's only raining a little bit down in some of the lowlands, look at how the atmospheric river just slams into the Cascades. That's just crazy stuff going on. Just genuinely crazy amounts of rain going in the Cascades. I mean, you're talking 8 to 10 inches has already fallen, and we may have up to 4 more inches. So it could be even worse than some of these forecasts are showing potentially for some of the rivers draining the Cascades. We're almost at 12:15 a.m., so we're going to read through the school closures one more time just so you guys all know that for going into the morning. And then we will wrap it up here. If you got any last-minute questions, throw them into the chat right now. So Arlington School District is starting 2 hours late. Auburn School District starting 2 hours late. Chief Leschi schools are closed. Ferndale School District is closed. LaConner is closed. Lakewood School District is 2 hours late. Mount Vernon is closed as there are evacuations going on in town. Muckleshoot Tribal School is closed. Northwest Regional Learning Center is closed. Ording is 2 hours late. Puget Sound School District in Seattle is 2 hours late. Riverview School District is closed. Skagit Valley College has all campuses closed. The Skykomish School District is closed due to flooding in the schools. The Snohomish School District is 2 hours late. Snoqualmie Valley School District is closed. Sultan School District is 2 hours late. Taloha out on the coast is 2 hours late. White Pass School District is closed. And the White River School District is 2 hours late. All right, let me catch up on the chat one more time before we wrap things up here. We'll put it back to the atmospheric river just so we see what we're talking about. Again, that's the atmospheric river. It's been hitting us for the past few days. We got about 24 hours more to go. I just say this rain is going to continue, especially across parts of King County and the Central Cascades through the day Thursday. That's today now, I guess. And then we're going to start to taper it on Friday. Some areas north of Everett may continue to get showers on Friday, but not as much. And then by Saturday, we dry out, and we will have a break there until Sunday. So stay tuned for more, folks. Let me catch up on the chat here. Yeah, tons of orange and yellow on the radar. Unofficial Washington State Wildfire Aware says. Puget Sound Storm Watch says good night. Yeah, good night, Anthony. Thank you very much for tuning in, my friend. Yeah, let me check that wind in eastern Washington one more time, you guys. Benton City, yeah, it looks like gusting about 45 miles per hour. Got the big gusts up at Hanford, but yeah, 40 miles per hour or so around Benton City, 47 in Kennewick right now. Will there be more rain next week? Yes, we're going to get more rain Monday or Sunday and into Monday, and then maybe some more systems going in later next week. It does look to remain active, but hopefully we will get a little bit colder. So yeah, we got a lot to go through here, folks. Look at all these rivers. All these purples are major flood stage. All the reds are moderate flood stage. It's going to be unfortunately potentially devastating for a lot of people around the area, especially up in Skagit County, and then maybe the Snoqualmie Valley and some of those areas as well. So thank you all very much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to Western Washington Weather. Be sure to follow on social media here. You can see it right here. Subscribe to the channel. Be sure to follow on the Western Washington Weather Facebook group and on Twitter and Blue Sky. The links to all of these are in the description of this video below. So thank you all very much for watching. Stay tuned for more. I'll be out chasing tomorrow, and I'll be sure to post as many live updates as I can here on all my social media. So thank you all very much for watching. Please stay safe out there, and I will talk to you all from the field tomorrow. Thank you guys very much. Thanks for watching, and thanks for all the donations as well.